one. Welcome, y'all. I'm here with the beverage buyer at Brennan's Market here in Madison, Wisconsin, Brock Cummings. Thank you for joining me, Brock.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So I was just in Brennan's, one of my favorite places to buy beer in Madison. Brennan's is not a sponsor, but we would love them to be. And this isn't ask. This is more of a statement for Badger Beer Hour. Just saying that's why I was in there last weekend and I saw Brock and I was perusing through, spending my half an hour at the beer counter, and Brock was there working, so he saw me because I was there for like ever, it seemed like, because I can't get enough of everything that's going on and taking. So Brock agreed to come on to talk to us about some of the trends in craft beer. So I'm really want to thank Brock for joining us. And then we're just going to jump in. So craft beer sales. So I think everybody knows in the craft beer industry or adjacent, the craft beer is kind of taking a little bit of a hit, definitely during the pandemic. But even still afterwards, we're still feeling those pandemic results with breweries not opening 7 days a week. We've seen some closings. We've seen breweries have pivot to different kinds of drinks as opposed to beer. So what are you feeling as a buyer about craft beer sales just in general?
Yeah, you covered a lot of the current tumult, I guess, in the industry. And it's been since probably the beginning of the pandemic, mid-pandemic. During the pandemic, it felt like folks had a lot more extra income to kind of spend on really cool, little higher tier products like some of these new craft beers that are, in the $20 four pack and up kind of range. Um, as everything has kind of tightened up in the years since, I think that we're seeing a natural tightening of people's wallets, and the trend that we're seeing is a shift into larger packages, 12 packs, 15 packs, full cases of beer, and kind of a shift toward more reliable beer that they can drink consistently and they can expect the same product time after time. Where a lot of the modern craft beer is not really skewed that way. It's a lot of trending products, and stuff is changing pretty rapidly, if not weekly, every other week, which is still good. There's still plenty of fans of that product, but I think it's kind of has its niche now, and I'm not sure how much it's expanding beyond that.
Yeah, that's a little bit, as a consumer, it's a little bit sad to hear. But are you seeing and there's definitely still that fight for shelf space, right?
Oh, they're yes, definitely. I mean, I even the biggest stores in the county, like Woodman's or something, still I'm sure has to pick and choose what they have to be able to bring in because you just have so much limited space, and then you're trying to, in addition to choose good products, you like to support maybe like-minded businesses, things like that along the way, and you got to kind of make compromises to ensure that you have the right product in there that customers are looking for, but that you're spending your money in the right place as well.
Right. We, as we know, I'm looking over at my notes here, y'all. That's why I keep looking over. As we as we are in stout season right now, I love to call it. It's cold winter season. This is the time of year that craft beer drinkers love to look for stouts and bigger body beers. Are you seeing any trends in adjuncts? Stouts is one of the biggest adjunct beer styles. And so any cocoa nibs, what do you see? What are people buying, or what are the breweries making?
I would say coconut and cocoa nibs are pretty kind of baseline for what brewers are using as adjuncts. They're also, I mean, they're really expanding into the pastry stout territory.
Mm.
Fruit jelly and different flavoring. Like I believe local brewery recently did a Black Forest cake stout. So they're getting more creative.
Hmm.
Oftentimes I feel that you can kind of see the suppliers maybe had something that they were in need of moving, and you see kind of things pop
Mm,
up all at the same time. Like if they were trying to move some cherry
mhm,
puree or something, you start to see cherry beers not just from the same brewery but from multiple breweries, kind of all at the same time. So um, I think that plays into it a little bit. As far as customers, what they're looking for, I mean, barrel aging of any type is still really popular. We're starting to see a little more frequency in breweries stating what barrel is being used, like what distillery,
mm,
things like that. In the past, it was
mhm,
kind of just bourbon barrel, and that was that. Now, if
mhm.
they get a Henry McKenna barrel or a Blanton's barrel or something like that, they really want to
Jay
kind of
Henry.
tell customers about that. Yes, exactly. Jay Henry, another local
Yep.
brewery, works well with them for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Jay Henry's excellent. So one of the things that intrigued me when we talked was so we're here talking about craft beer, y'all, but there's other things that affect craft beer sales, and one of them is the recent trend of the hard seltzers. Now, those came up during the pandemic, and what are you seeing now, and how are they doing now, Brock?
So initially, I would say when I guess White Claw was probably the first to market, hit the market. Customers liked it. I don't feel they typically quite understood that that was a fermented malt beverage, just like a beer is. It comes from a malt base and is fermented from malt.
Mhm.
Um, it just was crisp and refreshing and for different fun fruit flavors, and that was that. And as they expanded, something like High Noon came along and was half to double the price of most seltzers like White Claw, and they had a tough time for a little while convincing customers that their product was a more of a premium product because they were using distilled vodka as the base alcohol as opposed to malt base.
Mm,
That in the last 2 years,
mm.
I would say maybe a year and a half, 2 years, customers seem to have figured that out, and High Noon is it's on fire. I mean, that is where liquor growth is right now, is in fermented malt beverages and or rather ready to drink cocktails from with alcohol spirit beverage base. Um, High Noon's kind of the main player in that right now. I think they have like I think I read 60% of that market is High Noon alone. So
Do you?
there's definitely it seems at this point the tide is rising all of their boats in that. But on the other hand, if you're doing a fermented malt beverage like White Claw or Truly, I think they're having a real hard time right now. They're struggling. We've seen even local the seltzers that we carried were always focused on Untitled Art because they were local and they used real fruit in their product, and even those have kind of substantially slowed down.
Yeah, I enjoyed the ones from K4, Carbon 4.
Oh, sure.
And it really felt like they were putting in fruit too, like real fruit too. I think that was the difference. That was kind of a turn. And also, y'all go to any of these breweries, y'all gonna see hard seltzers or malted seltzers. Brewers are making them now, so there's definitely an inroads there, and there's definitely a intersectionality there. Even a lot of traditional craft beer guys are like seltzers. I said with that, that's not beer. You know what I mean? And I agree with that, but at the same time, sometimes you want to go to a brewery and have a variety of different things available to you. Not everybody's a beer drinker, so I think that's where brewers are going. And so you
Oh,
mentioned the canned drinks, or going back, yeah, respond to
oh, I was just gonna say, no, I totally agree. Especially in the on-premise, it makes sense for a brewery to make a seltzer and have it on their draft line. It's quite
that. Hmm.
inexpensive for them relative to brewing a full beer, and it appeals to a lot of different people that don't like the taste of beer, something like that, or want
Hmm.
to just have a more fruit-forward thing without having a big pastry
Sure.
sour or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And even as beer drinkers, as sometimes we're looking for a different taste. Sometimes we're looking for sweetness. Sometimes we're looking for bitterness. You know what I mean? It's a different, it's a mood thing more than it is, I think, a stagnant thing, or at least it is for me. So
Yeah,
you
I think
mentioned,
so.
I kind of wanted to get into. Um, you mentioned canned mixed drinks. Do you feel that that is becoming an alternative for craft beer drinkers?
I think it seems to be an alternative for younger aged people getting into alcohol of any kind. It's kind of becoming a major entry point, I think.
Hmm.
Much more so than mine. Still seems kind of, for lack of a better term, stuffy or snobbish to some
Sure,
people, and we
sure,
try our
sure.
best to
Mhm.
discourage that mindset, of course.
Right, right,
But
right,
sometimes
right.
it's really intimidating. There's so much variety in
Yep.
names, and that beer. Initially, when you and I probably started drinking craft beer, there was some big name breweries, but they were still craft, like New Belgium and Sierra Nevada, things like that. And then it really exploded in the early 2010s, and what kept doubling doubling amount of breweries
Hmm.
every year. That kind of
Hmm.
flooded the market with variety as well, and that became an intimidating thing for new entrants into craft beer, I think. If you have somebody to guide you, I think that makes all the difference.
Right, right. How are those price points though, real quick on the canned mixed drinks? Do you feel that they're right where they're at, or is it still kind of all over the place?
They tend to be higher price point than a regular hard seltzer would be, or
Yeah, yeah.
even most beer,
I've
because
noticed
most
that.
of
Yep.
those are using typically vodka, tequila, the most popular, I would say, but whiskey's kind of starting to gain traction. Um, Whiskey generally has its own
Why not?
following and
Sure,
zeitgeist right now, of
sure,
course, but yeah.
sure. Well, then you have that intersectionality with the popularity of bourbon barrel beers, which are ultimately at the end of the day, whiskey, um, whatever you want to call it. How about we for this conversation we'll call it a whiskey adjunct.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that this makes yeah, so that makes sense if whiskey, you know what I mean. If whiskey mixed drinks are going to come up too, that only really makes sense. And it only makes sense that the buyers will want that. So yeah, that's cool. So a small fraction of two little things that I would like to talk about that in the past people have framed them in a manner of like they may be eating at the craft beer industry, but I haven't seen many ciders or meads. Anything going on with those?
Uh, I think they have their niche, and I do tend to see more crossover with craft beer on the mead side. Cider seems to
Hmm.
be kind of maybe its own animal, or wine drinkers maybe shift that way a little more. Craft beer, especially different kind of intense or wild meads like Superstition Meadery out of Arizona, is
Mhm.
doing craft beer like meads, like milkshake style meads, pastry style meads, all sorts of different things. And that's
Hmm.
definitely appealing to craft beer drinkers that are into those types of styles of beer. On the
Yeah.
cider side, we kind of have a unique situation where we are, because the cider farm is shares a space with us, and their style of cider is very traditional, very dry, white
Mhm.
wine like across the board. So much so that they even serve most of their cider in a wine glass. So the customers that are coming to them are kind of expecting that style. So we do carry a few sweeter styles, but most of ours are going to be dry or semi-sweet styles. And I mean, kind of since we've reestablished ourselves in 2017, cider has been a really shining star in our store, actually. So I think it is growing. It's definitely not growing
Hmm.
at any speed like craft beer was growing, or anything like hard seltzer was growing, but it seems to be much more steady, sustainable growth, I think. And that's maybe not what the cider makers want. They maybe want it to grow a little quicker, but I think it's probably a healthier way to break into the market and really establish yourself. So
That is excellent information. Had no idea about this, and that's why I got an expert on. Excellent, good
and
stuff.
meads too, I will say, tend to be on the pricier side of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Often, or yeah, pretty much what you'd be paying for premium craft beer, and
Mm-hmm.
up. I mean, even double that, triple that occasionally with some of these meaderies. I guess that's just a factor of the fact that the input is going to be honey, and that's already an expensive input. So just kind of translates to a higher price product.
And a
Theoretically, it's
higher entry
allowing
point.
them to keep their creativity going and not have to mass produce much of their products. So that's good for the people looking for unique stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. So it's definitely a niche, though, is what I'm hearing, with a higher point of entry. So there's going to be restraints in that kind of lane, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, sometimes traditional people just are not fans of that flavor. Sometimes that depending on which honey is used to ferment it, you can get really, really earthy. I mean, just like you would honey, different honeys have really different complex flavors, and sometimes it's
Mhm.
too earthy or even too dry for some people's taste. They expect sweet when it's honey, and it's
Mhm.
not always sweet.
Mhm.
So that's another
Mhm.
one that it really helps to be able to guide someone or educate someone, help them to kind of know what to expect or what to look for.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a bit of terroir going on with that too, and people don't understand it.
Very
Where the
much
honey
so.
is.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I never even thought. Look at that. Look at that. That's amazing. So, last and certainly not least, one of the things I really want to talk to you about, and this will be the last item that we discussed today, is the So we talked about hard seltzers before, and I think just because they're so they made such an impact on an unexpected impact on the craft beer industry and on liquor as a whole. No one saw those coming. As far as I know, there was no harbinger. They were just out. You saw Boston Beer Market put out Truly, and their stock price went from literally, I think, 300 to 1,000 during the pandemic because of those. It literally pulled their whole beer, empire up. We could literally talk about a half an hour about Boston Beer Market, their impact on craft beer, and their kind of precarious place between big beer and small beer, and how they help small beer out, but that's their competition. And there's just so much going on there. But I think a lot of people really looked at Truly and was like, "Whoa!" And then I think it was White Claw after that. But my point is that like they just both came up. They're very, very popular. We had all the White Claw memes, all the pushback on White Claw, all the the push for White Claw. I mean, it was just such a thing. And now it seems like we are evolving in the seltzer world. So now we have THC seltzers. So one of the things, and it may take me a little bit to set up this question. One of the things that really, really perplexes a lot of people about that is that Wisconsin is one of, I think, half of the states in America that don't have any kind of legal marijuana program, whether it be recreational, and we don't even have medical in Wisconsin. So to see the rise of legal THC infused, so most places have CBD and have embraced CBD, and a lot of these seltzers, y'all, have CBD in them, so check that label. But there's many. I just saw Trixie's. I'm sure you're familiar with Trixie's here. They're a local beer store run by my friend Chris Welsh, and they are really popular. He just put out something yesterday saying we have 40 THC seltzers. I wonder when the first Madison brewer is going to do one. So there's I feel a big push. I'm seeing them more. So Brock, can you get into not only why are they legal and how does this happen in a state where they're not, where the rest of THCs or Western marijuana is not legal, and then also what is it like? Are you feeling people are drinking them instead of craft beer? Where are you at? It looks like you. I mean, you literally put a whole. I don't know what y'all call it. A call. Y'all go to the beer store, open it up. There's a whole column of THC seltzers now over at Brennan's, and I thought that was fascinating, weird, amazing. I was all freaked out about it on some level, and then you saw my enthusiasm for them because I actually like them. But that, my opinion is aside, I really want to know. I really want you to get into the business of them real quick here, please.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, first of all, of course, I'm not an attorney or a politician, so all
Yep.
the
Yep.
fine details. But as we understand it, and how we've discussed with the different distributors, other vendors who are doing it, um,
Yep.
the 2018 Farm Bill allowed uh, a more lenient form of hemp production. So it kind of opened up hemp production, which would be essentially a cousin to the cannabis plant that it has psychoactive effects. But hemp has been used, for many years to build things like rope
Mm-hmm.
and clothing, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this law restricts the THC content in the dry weight of the hemp plant that is growing to negligible amounts. I believe it's 0.06% or 0.05%. It's quite minimal. What we've seen is that some of these producers have they're all staying within the law. When they refine it, they can put that into a drink that can eventually it will produce psychoactive effects, just like you would a THC beverage from Colorado or a state like that. We are doing so on our end responsibly. We just treat it like alcohol, so it's 21 and plus only. There are different concentrations in each beverage, and consumers definitely should be aware of that. What the recommended dosage is on the can. That's part of the concentration in that can, and if it's a 12-ounce can and they say maybe it's a 5 milligram dosage, the serving size might be half of that can. So it's always good to treat it just like you would. I mean, frankly, if you're new to alcohol, if you're a young person, you take it slowly and kind of learn how it makes you feel, how it makes you act before you go overboard or anything like that. We are seeing an increase in the sales of it, and it's kind of interesting to see what types of customers are interested in it. We're obviously a pretty upscale gourmet grocery store, for lack of a better term, and a lot of these products are done by craft brewers. They have kind of expanded into it. Then craft beer sales have kind of started to flatten out, or seltzer sales maybe have dropped off. This is another alternative route for a lot of these craft beer producers to keep revenue flowing into their business. And in doing that, a lot of the ones that we are carrying and supporting are also breweries that we carry and support the beer that they make. So it's kind of an extension of craft beer at this point. And we've seen success with craft beer drinkers. People that are in weekly to get craft beer have also maybe gotten a 4-pack or something of this product as well. I don't think any of those have completely shifted over one way or another. And some of them still also buy the CBD product, which would just contain CBD that we sell. That one's Untitled Arts as well. And we still have customers that just buy that product as well. So I think maybe the craft beer drinker is just expanding their palate a little bit. They still like craft beer, but they kind of want to see what else is out there. And when they see a business like, let's say, Oliphant Brewing, they like some of their beer. They like the creativity they express. So maybe they're going to try some of their cannabis beverages as well. We're also seeing people completely new to that type of beverage in general that aren't even drinkers, maybe wine drinkers, or maybe they are non-alcoholic drinkers. Sometimes they're also looking, and you find people who are curious from 30-something folks to middle-aged folks, stay-at-home moms, business people. We're seeing all sorts of people interested in it. And I try my best to introduce it as something that shouldn't be scary, that shouldn't be, it shouldn't really frighten you away as long as you do it in moderation, just like you would alcohol. So if you're an adult, I think you should be able to work within those same constraints that you do with alcohol. So.
Yeah, not you, but these things are kind of fighting societal norms, given that THC has been illegal for so long. So then people are kind of almost ingrained, I don't know, in a weird way of thinking about them. But I want to, I don't know. We'll just leave it on that note. I wanted to thank you again, Brock from Brennan's Cellar, and Brennan's again. As I was telling Brock, I believe has some of the best fruit. Even in the wintertime in Wisconsin, fruit gets kind of crazy around here. Y'all know. In the summer it's pretty good, and springtime, or in the fall and winter it kind of gets bad. Brennan, but there's a lot of gourmet stuff there. The cheese section, I can't. I mean, I just can't with y'all's cheese section. I just can't. It's just so amazing, as
You
you
can pair
already
any of
know.
it with any of the beer you want to pick up.
Yes, yes. Look at that. Look at that. But I just want to thank Brock for touching all these things on me with me. I hope that Brock comes back and talk to us maybe in the spring or summer, and we'll see what's moving then. Because now we got a lot of stouts moving. I'm sure a lot of cocktails and stuff like that in the winter. It all makes sense. But I want to thank Brock for joining me today. And hopefully, Brock, I'll talk to you soon. Maybe we'll talk seasonally to see what's moving and shaking. But thanks for keeping me updated on and keeping us updated on what the trends are, the trends that you're seeing in Madison.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.